Hey guys, and welcome to the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy show. Tonight we will be discussing, at least in brief, the sad passing of Joni, uh, China Lauer, as well as Prince, and we're going to be talking about remakes and stupid mistakes, bringing back old movies and sequels, and much more. So hit the music.
And we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy show. I, of course, am Captain Fizz.
And as always, greetings from the seventh moon of thunder. I am that mask guy. I gotta say, every time I hear our theme song, which is called Sports by the Losers, I end up wanting to dance, which is very awkward.
You want to dance, I do dance. I dance till my pants fall off.
Yeah, you pulled it back up. No one needs to see that.
Hey, I just have fun moving my boogie.
Yeah, okay.
Boogie, boogie, boogie.
Boogie, boogie, boogie. So, as we said just before we went to the music, this past week we lost a couple of, I suppose you could say, icons in different industries. First off, there was the sad passing of Joni Lauer, who, of course, is better known within the wrestling world as Chyna. She definitely went off and broke down a lot of barriers within the professional wrestling. She was the first woman to ever hold the Intercontinental title in WWE. She was the first woman to ever be in the King of the Ring tournament. She was the first woman to ever be in the Royal Rumble. She was, I believe, the first woman to actually ever wrestle for a world title. Period.
She was also very famous for wrestling against men, which is, very unheard of.
Yeah, it was unheard of then. I mean, if you look at the indie scene in professional wrestling now, it's become a norm in several different promotions, including probably front and center would be promotion Chikara, which is near and dear to my heart. But I mean, she was really a pioneer, and she may be one of the main reasons why things like what they're doing in Chikara and what they're doing in the Indian independent scene period are allowed to do. Of course, she was a member of Degeneration X along with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, New Age Outlaws, X-Pac. And so a lot of the stuff they were doing was just groundbreaking. And I'm just thinking back on some of my favorite moments. It was when all the members of DX tried to invade an episode of WCW Monday Night Nitro, which was just epic when they were trying to get in there on a tank. So I mean, she's gonna be sadly missed. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years, she's been really struggling with her demons. I haven't really heard how she's passed away, so I don't want to go off and speculate too much at this point.
And it is tough when it comes to professional sports of any type, especially in that line of business.
Well,
Concussions and things like that.
there was a part I remember. There was an interview for those people who aren't aware. She used to date Triple H, who's now, of course, married to Stephanie McMahon. And the two of them did an interview, and this was going back almost 20 years, where they were discussing their relationship. Maybe not quite that long ago, but it seems like a lifetime ago now. And there was she suffered a lot of persecution in the back. Um, I know that a lot of the men did not want to go off and wrestle her, and Triple H was often met with comments like, "Why should I have to wrestle, your girl, her just because you're sleeping with her, or and stuff like that?" And I mean, it was really, it was too bad that a lot of people were really mad by that. Of course, I mean, professional wrestling in some ways particularly during that period of time, was really the old boys club, and it was really tough for any woman to be taken serious in that industry. I mean, if you look at women in general in professional wrestling, half the time they've been eye candy, or during the time I grew up in the 1980s, they weren't exactly the most attractive women at all who were the best wrestlers. And so, I mean, for her to go up and to just break down so many barriers, of course, she appeared in Playboy a couple times. Unfortunately, she kind of went down a darker road towards, doing, pornography and a couple other things later on into her life. But it really seemed, in interviews, that she seemed to be getting her life together. She seemed to be working really hard to try to mend fences with WWE. Um, and it was nice. I didn't actually get to see it, but I understand that WWE put on a nice tribute for her last night on Monday Night Raw. So,
I was watching Monday Night Raw for a little bit, then hockey came on, and my priorities kicked in.
and I don't blame you. Unfortunately, I mean, I haven't watched Monday Night Raw in a couple of years now, I think, but I do, try to keep up with whatever's happening in WWE because I do have the WWE network. So I will go off and I watch their monthly special events as well as NXT, which I will argue is far superior to anything that they currently have on on cable television.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Joni Lauer's family and friends.
According to reports, it could take up to months before the coroner actually releases or knows what caused her death. She was supposed to appear on the TV show Intervention before she passed away. So they are leaning more towards overdose at this point, which unfortunately seems to be a very common cause of death for majority of celebrities as of lately.
It's just, and it seems to be a common thing just within the world of professional wrestling. Sadly, it seems that professional wrestling, and at least during the period of time that the Joni or Chyna, I'm gonna call her. I don't really feel comfortable really calling her by her given name, but during that time period, if you look at some of her contemporaries, a lot of them end up having a lot of substance abuse issues. Road Dogg Jesse James, particular, who's a member of DX, I mean, had some really, he went through a very tough rock, a period which lasted for years and years and years. And I mean, they were running buddies, these two. So I mean, I can imagine. And I mean, I haven't had a chance to read her the autobiography that she did several years for WWE, but apparently her childhood wasn't good. So I mean, this is a woman who just seemed to be. She was a fighter. I mean, and unfortunately, it does feel like the fight just went out of her. And if that's the case, I feel really bad.
Yeah, and it was definitely shocking to hear myself. Unfortunately, we have heard a lot of wrestling stars within the last year, 2 years passing away. So it's not exactly something that really weighs very heavily when you get kind of used to it.
It's just I mean, there's been a couple of names that have come up, especially within the ECW alumni that have passed away in recent months or recent weeks. Axel Rod and Balls Mahoney particularly come to mind. And while they're both, their deaths are tragic, considering that the lifestyles that they went off and were into, particularly a lot of the people that were in ECW at that time, it's not surprising. With Joni, though, I mean, Chyna, it just, I mean, it's, again, it wasn't surprising, but to me, it seems far more tragic, her passing, than it is these other two, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and we'll move on to our next tribute.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
talking about Prince, who's probably going to go down in history as probably one of the greatest musicians, greatest singers, greatest
uh,
performers
you
of
know,
all time.
and he was more than just that. Like they're finding out that a lot of the songs that are out now, he wrote. He helped. Collaborate on, and
Just
no one even knew until recently that he had part in it.
well, I mean, and I mean, it's well known. I mean, he's done he wrote songs, for several people. Madonna in particular comes to mind. I'll be the first to admit I'm not the hugest uh, fan of Prince's work, so I can't go up and I can't personally attest to what he has won off and has accomplished, and how many performers have been touched, by his gift with lyrics. But I mean, in this, I mean, it seems to be a very shocking death. I haven't really heard anything about exactly how this happened, but I mean, people on just everywhere were absolutely shocked to hear of his passing.
Yeah, actually, when I first heard about it, I was at work. Uh, I was talking to people, and I kind of noticed it on my phone, and it took me about an hour, 2 hours, before I fully acknowledged that it was in fact true and not a hoax. Um, I figured, it's Prince. He hasn't exactly been in, the spotlight for any negative aspects, as far as I know. And he was 45.
Yeah,
He's
I
not
mean,
exactly.
he would have been what you would consider to be the prime of your life.
Yeah, no, exactly. And
Although, I mean, after his death, it came to light that
sorry, 57.
50.
It
Well,
was China who was 45.
there you go. You got
I got the ages mixed up.
yeah, that's okay, but I mean, still, I mean, 57, isn't that old? But I mean, I remember hearing, how apparently there was some health crisis near the end. He was apparently, I think, I may be getting this story completely wrong, but there was talk of how they had to land a plane early to, seek him medical attention
Yeah,
right
he
away.
had actually appeared at an event. He was singing and all that. On his way back in the plane, they had to divert it to a hospital for him to get checked out. Um, he was suffering from flu-like symptoms for over 2 weeks beforehand, which it is a scary thing. He is an icon. I personally have not been a huge fan of his style of work, but he definitely does bring up a lot of different musicians in mind of who he's like. Most people kind of describe him as a mix of George Clinton, James Brown, Jimi Hendrix, the Beatles, David Bowie, Mick Jagger. He uses all these phenomenal singers as inspiration. Elvis Presley, of course. You can't become the prince and not draw off the king.
Exactly.
And even Stevie Wonder, like, you see a lot in his music, like Purple Rain. It is a collaboration of all that style of music put together, and he was a phenomenal, artist.
And not to mention, I mean, the movie Purple Rain was probably one of the few times where a musician, a music performer has successfully been able to transition, himself into a movie, and for it to be, a success. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
he was even in the 1997 Muppets Tonight episode 11. He appeared as himself. Uh, like a lot of different films and television that he appeared in. And most of the time as himself.
absolutely. And I will admit that I've watched the Super Bowl a few times, and I haven't always been a huge fan of the halftime shows. But one of the shows that really stands out to me was one that Prince went off and did. I believe this was the year after Nipplegate happened with Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake. And that show kind of halftime show really stands out to me, and many people consider it to be